Hey folks, how are you? So in the past week, we've had two coaches go and say, "That's it, I'm done. No more, no mas. I'm done. That's it, no more." But in two different contexts and in two different types of reactions that they get from the respective bases. Let me start out with the first one, Xavi Hernandez. Xavi, of course, many were touting him as the next footballing genius, as the next one that's going to take Barcelona to a next level because of his tactical intelligence. I'm not saying that he doesn't have tactical intelligence or he doesn't have a certain intelligence or a certain nous in terms of what needs to be done on a football pitch. He's one of the great midfielders of all time. Let's not, mince our words here. As a coach, has been a different story. Yes, he was successful in the Middle East. Yes, he was very successful at Al Sadd. But being successful at Al Sadd doesn't necessarily translate you being successful over at Barcelona. He's football intelligent enough to go and make a difference on a pitch, on a training ground. But as a coach, there's still a lot that he has to learn. And I think this is a bit of a shot of humility that he had to take, because at times he seemed, I'm trying to find the right word here because it sounds harsh, but at times it seemed like he was making excuses. I mean, and he was. We're not accustomed to playing in the day. We're not accustomed to playing during the sun. Where the pitch is too short, the pitch is too long. It's too late at night. We've heard a lot of those. The fourth referee told me it was a goal. That was something that he said the other day against Villarreal when a penalty was called and they didn't know. He said that the fourth referee said to him, "That's a stone cold penalty," and VAR of course ends up turning it. Which, if you see it, you could end up understanding VAR's case, and to me, it was not. He took over when he was saying, "Oh, we're." It's kind of a backhanded compliment if you look at it. Well, Ronald Koeman wasn't able to do too much. And then a couple of days ago, he said, well, Barcelona is a very ungrateful club where they treat their idols poorly. And he mentioned, now we're admiring Ernesto Valverde. Now we're admiring Ronald Koeman. Wait a second. That's the same coach that you were bashing that said he didn't know what he was doing in order for you to position yourself to get the job. Okay. Now, the point about Barcelona being ungrateful with their idols is totally true. That's not something that Xavi just discovered. I mean, it's like saying that you discovered cold water. That's been said throughout. That's been said for the past 25, 30 years when it comes to Barcelona faithful and people that have covered the club. So that's nothing new. Where Xavi ends up losing is that, hey, you know what? He didn't know how to handle situations, so he had to go and use excuses to be able to justify some things that he wasn't able to do, or didn't see, or was beaten by other coaches. Look, yes, he won La Liga. Yes, he won a Super Cup, but then he also failed in the Europa League. He also had Barcelona knocked out on the group stage of the Champions League, which is the measuring stick that Barcelona has had throughout the years. They're still alive this year. Actually, basically, that's the only tournament they're still alive in right now, and they're facing Napoli, two teams that come in struggling into that Champions League tie. Who's going to be struggling less? That's a big question. I don't know. All in all, Xavi took a team that could defend and couldn't attack into a team that can't defend and can't attack too much. This season, Barcelona struggled greatly. Barcelona's productivity in the past couple of years has dipped drastically. And maybe this is me patting my shoulder a little, patting myself on the shoulder. And I said, hey, look, Barcelona, when Messi leaves, they're going to become a Europa League side. I haven't been that wrong. Yeah, they won a league title, and they usually have won league titles in the past. It's not that they never did. They did go stretches where they didn't win them. But more often than not, over the past 30, 40 years, if you looked at teams that were going to win La Liga, you would say first Barcelona, Real Madrid. Whatever order you want to say, that's fine. But there's never been a plan. There's never been anything. And like I said before with Laporta was there for ego. He got there and took over as president for all the wrong reasons. And then when he saw the real problem, how real the problem was, now he's trying to find ways to invent, to redirect his rhetoric, to start blaming other people, to start looking at solutions that are pretty much far-fetched, to try and appeal to a super league, and seeing his team sink further and further with every passing season. Fortunately, he has enough of a cushion between where they're at right now and the other teams that are up underneath them, where they could be kind of mired in second, third, fourth place in La Liga on a consistent basis from here on out, which for Barcelona, this Barcelona the last 20, 25 years is pretty much disastrous. So Xavi Hernandez is basically in that position. And that's why he leaves, and he sees that what he's been able to do has not been enough, and what he needs to do is something way beyond what he's capable of fixing. Now, you look at Jurgen Klopp, and today during the FA Cup against Norwich, you saw a fan base that was completely out to say thank you. That was very appreciative of what Jurgen Klopp has done to Liverpool and put them in a situation where they're at right now. When he comes in 2015, it's a team that's they weren't truly competing on a year in, year out basis to win the Premier League. Now, so much so that the first couple of years for Jurgen Klopp wasn't happening. Then, as time went on, he started competing a bit more, and not only competing a bit more, competing in Europe and competing in the Premier League. He didn't win every year, but he was in the conversation. He took Liverpool to 3 Champions League finals. That's a pretty tall order, to be honest with you. They win a Premier League. They win a Carabao Cup. They win an FA Cup. There was one year, I think it was 2020, where they were in the running for every single title up for grabs until the very end. Okay? So Liverpool have once again become a prominent side under Jurgen Klopp. Now the question is, many are asking, okay, the guy who takes over, what's he going to have to do? Well, I don't think he's going. If the coach is intelligent, maybe fine-tune a little bit here and there and maintain somewhat a similar philosophy. Now, if FSG decides to go a totally different route and start looking for a coach because of name and very nonchalantly just looking at the name without looking at what system and the players that they have in place are able to play or able to play at their best level, then there's going to be a problem. So that could be an issue. I digress. Jurgen Klopp has really built his legacy at Liverpool. And if you see his past, you knew that eventually he was going to run out of gas because Jurgen Klopp only knows one way to coach, and it's 100%. And if he can only give 98, it's not enough for him. He said it, not me. He's an all-out coach, all-or-nothing coach. He's that type of boss that gives everything and thus expects everything. And if he knows he hasn't been able to give that, then it's not worth it for him. And it's understandable. Look, at the end of the day, will he be a Paisley or a Shankly? I don't know. That's up to Liverpool fans to determine how, is he going to be a Rafa Benitez? Is he going to be somewhere along those lines? I don't know. That's not a question for me to answer. That's a question for the fans to determine. And that court of popular opinion will determine whether he is or not amongst the greatest coaches in Liverpool history. In my humble opinion, I would say he is. But that's just something that Liverpool fans themselves will have to determine. Now, going towards the future, we'll see what the club ends up doing. But in terms of the present, it's a Liverpool fan base that sees their team top of the table in the Premier League. They're in the final of Carabao Cup. They're fighting for the possibility to win yet again another FA Cup. Top of the Premier League. They are also in Europa League. So they could, it's and not only that, they'll have to see what they can do without Salah, or if Salah does recover, how are they going to be with Salah that's maybe not 100% for a couple of weeks or maybe a month or two. But all this being said, there is a very good possibility that they could win a trophy this year. Not bad, especially knowing who they compete against on a consistent basis for those trophies. So, to be honest with you, there's a wonderful legacy that's being left by Jurgen Klopp, and he's leaving at the right time. He's like, why am I going to end up wanting to be an Alex Ferguson, which Xavi also talked about? I don't need to be an Alex Ferguson because I want to be a Jurgen Klopp. And if I can't give my 100%, then I'm going to leave. And there's a great possibility, unless Liverpool season comes crashing down. Oh, and keep in mind, there's been seasons where Klopp has still been able to be somewhat competitive despite having massive injuries. So that's another thing to be looking at. And also, there's been times that they need to get some transfers, and the board really hasn't paid attention to what Klopp has asked for. And maybe if they do, they end up maybe looking for those transfers maybe a season too late. So, all this being said, Jurgen Klopp has been able to do some great stuff here at Liverpool, and he will be always respected. Now, as I began this video with Xavi Hernandez, Xavi's time at Barcelona might not be remembered as a coach, but as a player, there's no doubt that he'll always be revered. But as a coach, there's no way, and he can be the most Cruyffiest of Cruyffists, and he's not going to be looked at in the same terms, in the same level, or even in the same conversation as Johan Cruyff. Ladies and gentlemen, hey, talk to you soon. Ciao.